Good afternoon and welcome to Chargers Outside Zone. I'm Chuck.
I'm Thomas, and today we're talking about coaches outside of the division that we need to face.
Yeah, so Chargers opposing head coaches outside the AFC West in 2022. Technically, a record for the longest title of an episode so far.
Technically. I came up with the idea, so if it turns bad, blame it on me.
Awesome. So, as a reminder, this is a father-son hobby. We are not experts, and we try to stay away from hot takes.
Which we have done really.
But I have a feeling that streak might be broken today.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Especially with one team.
Let's see what happens.
Maybe two. I don't know.
Pretty simple. We're going to go over the schedule as it is. We're not going to review the schedule. But
we did that last episode if you want to check that out.
Yeah, if you want to take a look at the last episode where we gave our thoughts on the schedule. Yes. Today we're going to who the head coaches are that will be opposite of Brandon Staley.
Great defensive mind.
Right. Who's he going to be facing? Who's the Charger staff? Who's the person on the other side that they'll be game planning against?
Who's the captain on the other side?
Yep, and
of the battleship.
And so we just have the schedule, and we're going to skip the AFC West coaches for now.
For now, that's going to be like a 3-episode series.
Yeah, where we take a look at the AFC West opponents, the changes that they've made to their teams in the offseason, their coaching staffs. Obviously, you got Andy Reid still in place, but the other two are new to the division, and we'll talk about them.
And also Brandon Staley staying.
Right. So
2-2, but
correct.
That's not now. That's a little bit later.
So, as we showed before, Raiders come to LA week 1. They have a new head coach, Josh McDaniels. Obviously out of the Bill Belichick tree,
yes.
And we'll cover him in more detail when we review the Raiders.
Yes.
Week 2 at the Chiefs, Andy Reid, been in the NFL a very long time.
We'll cover him when we get to the Chiefs.
Correct. But that brings us to week 3 when the Jaguars come to town.
Yes.
With new head coach Doug Peterson.
I think Doug's going to be at least a good steady hand.
Correct.
The Jaguars were a hot mess.
Correct.
Last year.
They had a very tumultuous,
toxic
would be another T word to describe them.
I mean, thanks to Urban Meyer.
Right.
Not going to get into what he did, but at least it started in week 4. So obviously 2 years ago, Doug Marrone on the hot seat. Probably should have been fired before his last season, but was given another chance. They had the number 1 pick with a generational quarterback on the board. No brainer.
Yeah, Shad Khan decided to go with an untested NFL head coach.
Unproven.
And, even though he had won in college, and we all saw how that played out. We won't get into detail.
Dumpster fire.
But then in the offseason, they seem to have some difficulty bringing in a head coach
because they're keeping their GM, and no one seemed to wanted to work with their GM.
Correct. They seem to pick Trent Baalke over Byron Leftwich.
Yeah.
And stuck with him, but then they fell into a Super Bowl winning head coach.
So take the good with the bad.
Correct.
I guess.
Yeah, and
I'm not saying Leftwich would have been a terrible head coach.
No, he's still on staff with the Buccaneers, but you get You get a Doug Peterson when it looked like you were having trouble bringing anyone in.
He'll get his chance.
And the other thing is
a very steady hand.
Yeah, Doug Peterson
won't rock the boat.
Yes, we got the steady hand with him. He known as an offensive head coach.
So very good for their quarterback.
Yeah, won a Super Bowl with Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz playing MVP football. Obviously, Nick Foles comes in, takes him to the Super Bowl, wins the Super Bowl.
Backup.
But a lot of heavy RPO.
Yes.
Run pass option. Excuse me.
Run pass option.
And so the league. It seems like every offense now has a little bit of run pass option. And defenses are much better prepared, so you can't have an offense purely focused on that. But it'll be interesting to see how Trevor Lawrence matures under a Doug Peterson.
Yes.
How they do with number 1 draft pick Trayvon Walker on that defense. I think Doug is more of a, he's had a Jim Schwartz on his staff before in a 4-3.
I don't know who he has as defensive.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how they take that defense forward. But
yes,
I think any other comments about the Jaguars before we move on?
Trevor Lawrence just take it as a wash last year.
Yeah, his rookie season was not what he was looking for. They do get a Travis Etienne back to see if he can add something to that offense, but that's the Jaguars head coach, Doug Peterson.
Yes.
Week 4 at the Texans, and new head coach, not new to the league as a head coach, but Lovie Smith. Lovie Smith comes from the Tony Dungy tree, helped develop the Tampa 2 defense back in the day with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tony Dungy. He went on to head coach the Chicago Bears
and the Jets,
and
I think the Jets
and the Buccaneers eventually.
Buccaneers,
yeah, and then spent some time at Illinois, and then came back to the NFL under David Culley last year.
Mr. Culley,
yeah. I don't think there's high expectations on Lovie Smith because they are in a franchise rebuild, 3rd round quarterback from a year ago. So Lovie Smith has an opportunity here to do great things.
But what is it most likely that he'll get 1 year? Because David Culley didn't really.
Well, I think he had a falling out with the organization because they wanted to make some changes, and he didn't want to sell out his staff, so they ended up firing him and keeping Lovie Smith on and elevating him to head coach.
Yes.
But with the Texans, it's just really hard to tell if Lovie will be back for a second year or if he's there for 10 years. Who knows with the Texans?
Who knows?
Week 5. At the Browns, Kevin Stefanski
gets a new quarterback.
Do we know what a Kevin Stefanski Browns offense looks like? We know what it looks like with Baker Mayfield at the helm,
but
how will it look different?
Don't know with Watson.
Yeah,
if he's going to be suspended.
Yeah, the suspension aside, moving on from a Baker Mayfield to a Deshaun Watson, you still have Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. They drafted a running back, Jerome Ford, out of Cincinnati. Yes. Amari Cooper's in town.
Coop.
Yeah. So we'll see what Kevin Stefanski brings.
With his new quarterback.
Yeah. If we're facing that new quarterback in week 5. And they still have to figure out the Baker thing because I can't imagine them bringing him to camp, right?
No.
All right. Week 6 is a divisional opponent. Broncos come to L.A. Nathaniel Hackett.
in his
night.
first year. That is a Monday nighter. Week 7, the Seahawks in LA facing as a coach Pete Carroll. Pete's been around for a long time.
Pete's been a little long in the tooth.
Yeah.
It's going to be really interesting to see what he'll bring without his quarterback for at least 10 years.
Yeah, we only really know, a Pete Carroll Seahawks with Russell Wilson at the helm at quarterback. Who knows what the Seahawks are with Drew Lock, Geno Smith, Baker Mayfield, somebody else.
I don't want to bring up something, but do you think they're going to tank?
No, definitely not in their nature to tank. They just might not play very well based off of, exactly how their offense is doing.
Yeah.
They had a good draft. It looked like on paper. Does that translate? You lost Bobby Wagner on defense
to the Rams,
and we had in the anime video you had R.I.P. Legion of Boom.
Yes.
So definitely a different Seahawks team. Let's see how it plays out and see what Pete Carroll is post Russell Wilson. Week 8 is the bye. Week 9 at the Falcons, Arthur Smith. Really, his second year as a head coach.
Second year as a head coach. First year without.
Yeah, his first without Matt Ryan.
Matty Ice.
Having Marcus Mariota or a Desmond Ridder. But talk about a depleted roster.
I mean, all they have is Pitts.
Kyle Pitts.
And then who they drafted.
Yeah, with Calvin Ridley being suspended a year. He was close to being traded, but, now they don't even have they don't have him in the mix. Not even sure who they have at running back. Just a long rebuild process going on in Atlanta in a post-Matt Ryan era.
First year.
Week 10, at the 49ers, Kyle Shanahan. I think we all know who Kyle Shanahan is. Outside zone running scheme.
Yes.
Last year, very successful getting Deebo Samuel the ball, even with Jimmy Garoppolo at the helm.
Will
Debo be back? Is Trey Lance the starting quarterback? Is Jimmy Garoppolo the starting quarterback?
Yes.
Does that offense take a step back? Because, as you'll see in a minute, Kyle Shanahan's offensive run coordinator, offensive coordinator, Mike McDaniel, has moved on. And, what happens? They not only did they lose McDaniel, but they also lost Wes Welker, their wide receiver coach. He went with McDaniel. So some turnover there on the 49ers staff, some turmoil with Deebo Samuel. But the one thing, I think their defense is still pretty solid.
Yes.
With their front four.
They still have Nick Bosa. So.
Yeah, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner. And then their secondary, you have Jaquiski Tart.
Yeah.
Mosley, I think, the corners. The corners, just Jimmy Ward. I think they're obviously one interception away from playing in the Super Bowl.
Yes.
And so it'll be interesting, but some changes, because you definitely anticipated the Niners to have a really strong roster and head into 2022 with
the arrow pointing up, but with the offseason they had, let's see.
It's been rocky, their offseason.
Yeah.
To say the least.
Week 11, Chiefs, Andy Reid. Week 12 at the Cardinals, Cliff Kingsbury. And from the COVID draft, we really know that Cliff Kingsbury is living his best life with that house in Arizona, spectacular pad there. But on the field with his Cardinals, they had a great start last year. With the last remaining undefeated team playing well. Then injuries started to happen on the defensive side of the ball. And then they kind of ran out of steam there and didn't play well.
They lost some people.
Okay.
They lost the
Christian Kirk, the wide receiver, to the Jags.
Christian Kirk.
Yeah.
They lost the Raiders' new edge rusher.
Chandler Jones, correct?
So, and then you got their quarterback, which...
some issues with Kyler Murray and his contract status and what he wants before he agrees to come play for them in 2022.
Yes.
And you have the DeAndre Hopkins suspension, 6 games.
For 6 games.
Yeah, that doesn't impact, obviously, the Chargers playing at the Cardinals in Week 12. DeAndre Hopkins is back at that point. But that will impact their team and potentially get them off to a slow start. Just not really sure where this team's going at the moment.
Yes.
I don't know if the arrow's pointing up.
The arrow is stuck in the middle.
Yeah. Not sure if Cliff Kingsbury's long-term there. I guess we'll have to see how the Kyler Murray thing turns out.
He signed a contract.
Yeah, but he can always get fired, right? I mean...
Yes, there's always a Black Monday.
Yes. Week 13 at the Raiders, Josh McDaniels once again, and like we said, we'll talk about them. Week 14, Dolphins, and we hinted towards this. Mike McDaniel, former offensive coordinator for the Niners last year. Before that, he spent many years with Kyle Shanahan. Back to the Washington football team in that 2013
Washington
coaching
Commanders.
staff. Yes. Washington Commanders team. Yes. With the addition of Tyreek Hill, I'm assuming that, and the additions of Teron Armstead, that the Dolphins are all in on
Tua
implementing a Mike McDaniel offense. However that looks, getting Tua in the best position with a running game.
And then also, I think this is a make or break year for Tua.
Well, this is his 3rd year. He is in a much better situation today than he was last year. That's not any shade towards Brian Flores, but it's clear that Chris Greer, Mike McDaniel, Dolphins ownership,
have
invested in him.
Tua over
other options.
Yeah,
and Tua definitely has the. This is the year for him to show what he can do, and if he plays well, then he's your starting quarterback moving forward, and you got to figure out a way to pay him.
Yes.
If
he doesn't play well, they should have.
Then you decline his 5th-year option. See if you can get a better option for 2023, and then you're back to hunting again, right?
Yes.
Hunting for that franchise quarterback. So be interesting to see. If you haven't seen any of the YouTube stuff on Mike McDaniel,
he's really funny.
He's a funny, interesting background, great storyteller, and just a great person to have run to be a head coach and and to lead a group of 53 men into Sunday football games, right?
Yes.
So let's see. Week 15, Titans come to LA and Mike Vrabel's on the other side. I think we all get an understanding of Mike Vrabel at this point.
Yes.
Was
on Urban Meyer's staff at Ohio.
Played for Bill Belichick. Coached with Bill Belichick. Ohio State football player. But it's clear that the Titans are, his style of team.
Yes.
They want to...
The Titans way, if you excuse my...
Yeah, so they want to run the ball. He needs good quarterback play out of Ryan Tannehill, obviously.
Or Malik Willis. Well...
Yeah, but Ryan Tannehill is their starter. They're paying him $35 million, or his cap number's $35 million
for now.
For now, and but their whole, even though last year Derrick Henry was injured, they still finished number one. Somehow along the way they lost to the Jets. They had another loss in there that was quite a head scratcher.
They lost to the Bengals.
Well, yeah.
In the playoffs.
And then they were first out. They got the bye week, and then as soon as they got to play, they were out. I expect his defense with Jeffrey Simmons to be as good, maybe a little bit better this upcoming year, because they have a healthy Bud Dupree along with some other pieces there. So
yes, and also, what's their wide receiver situation going to look like?
Well, we know they have Robert Woods, Treylon Burks, Kyle Phillips.
It's
a work in progress.
It's a work in progress.
So, expect a close game whenever Mike Vrabel's on the other side.
Yes.
Week 16 at the Colts and facing Frank Reich. As we saw in the Chargers schedule release video, the QB carousel in Indianapolis continues this year with Matt Ryan.
Do you think Matt Ryan's the long-term starter?
Well, long-term, if you mean the next 2 years, yes. I think they're going to be able to build around Matt Ryan better than a Carson Wentz. They're going to know what they're getting game in and game out every time Matt Ryan steps on the field.
Yes.
So I don't think they'll have any issues there.
For this year or next year.
Yeah. And then Rams, Sean McVay, obviously Super Bowl winning head coach last year.
It's going to be LA on LA crime.
Yeah, finds a way to open up the run game with some passing. Matthew Stafford.
It's going
at the
to also
helm.
be Brandon Staley on the other side. So.
Yep, very true. Brandon Staley's part of the Sean McVay tree. The defense, as always, there with Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey and all the other players that they have. Pieces. I'm sure will come together and by week 17 be a stiff challenge. Week 18 at the Broncos, Nathaniel Hackett. But one thing that when I put the list together that was interesting, is if you notice, Doug Peterson and Frank Reich were on that Super Bowl winning staff for the Philadelphia Eagles. And both offensive minds, a little bit of that RPO. So similar coaching styles. And obviously both of them, Doug Peterson comes from the Andy Reid tree. He was with Andy Reid as a player. Then, coached with Andy Reid, followed him to Kansas City, And then Doug Peterson came back to Philly as the head coach. Other ties here, Arthur Smith was on Mike Vrabel's staff. So there's a connection there. I think they have similar tendencies on the offensive side of the ball, even though Mike pays more attention to the defense. But you probably are going to see Arthur Smith trying to build a Falcons offense similar to what that Titans offense was. And the other similarities, you have that Kyle Shanahan, Mike McDaniel, Sean McVay. So it's interesting to see.
It's a very samey coach schedule.
Yeah, it did kind of work out that way, that like 7 of the 11 out of conference coaches have some connection. And I'm sure if we knew more of a history, we could probably link some more together. But that's what we got out of this. And as always, we hope that you got something out of us covering the opposing coaches. Any comments that you want to close on?
Yes. If you liked it, we can do it again. If you didn't, this was just a fun idea by me.
Of course. All ideas are good ideas. We will try them. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel.
Follow.
Yeah, on Twitter, you can find us at LAC Outside Zone. You found us here on YouTube at Chargers Outside Zone. Email us at chargersoutsidezone@gmail.com. We are now up on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and supposedly Google is reviewing, and will get us up on Google Podcasts any day now. And with that, join us every Tuesday and Saturday for a new episode. Thank you for being here, and have a great day.
And have a great day.